You're searching for a monster who's hard to find, but here's a hint, he's one of a kind.
Then you can dash.
Monster
It's
Mash.
Monster Mash. Got him.
It's a wacky smash. Be the very first to find the fiend and then give him a whack and start all over again.
I'll do the mash.
Monster
It's
Mash.
Monster Mash.
It's a wacky smash. Monster Mash. Wacky fun from Parker Brothers.
Make Halloween fun with one-stop shopping at Woolworth or Woolco for your Halloween needs. Costumes from $1.83 to $3.99, like $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, superheroes, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, hobby. You can get wrapped candies of every kind, bubblegum, lollipops, fun-sized candy bars. Get this Halloween record, sounds to make you shiver, just $1.89. Make Halloween fun and easy. Make just one stop at Woolworth or Woolco.
Getting club season tickets for the Green Bay Packers is like winning the lottery. And right now, it's exactly like winning the lottery. Introducing the Green Bay Packers Instant Scratch game from the Wisconsin Lottery. You can win up to $50,000 instantly with this $10 ticket. Plus, there's a bonus drawing with a chance to win 4 club season tickets for the next 3 years. Finally, a chance to actually live the dream.
My name is Britta B., and the name of this poem is Dear Young Woman. Dear young woman, I hope you find you. I hope you find love. I see all the armor you wear. I see all the jewels and gems of wisdom you share. It's okay to shine, Ma. It's okay to shine. It's okay to have pride, Ma. You don't have to live a lie. Don't let the violence fool you into silence, convincing you that you are not worthy of space and time. You might not know it yet, but you got a multi-dimensional set of eyes looking out for you. Trust that what is meant for you is relying on you to show up. Show up. You can lose your religion, but you will never lose your spirit. Each of your breaths have minds and lives of their own. I doubt we'll ever know the true impact of our presence. What a blessing. Young woman, I wish you enough. I wish you enough time for all of your skills and talents. I wish you more. I wish you more revelations than disrespects and regrets. And I beg you to believe in yourself more than your parents ever did. Carry out your curiosities in spite of the corruptions you experience. You let yourself free when you let yourself forgive. And so when you do, and I know you will, I hope you find you. I hope you find love again. A word that comes to mind for this piece is empowerment. As a poet, I really want to serve as an encouraging voice through my work. And I want this poem to be a reminder that whatever you're going through as a woman, you have the choice to make for yourself on how gentle and kind you are with yourself. So I may be putting this out there as a message for people other than me, but it's also a reminder to myself to treat myself kindly and to be good to myself.
You combing your hair for the show, Steve? We're actually
I didn't know we were live. I wanted to look nice this week.
Doesn't he look nice, everybody? He got his hair did. It looks very good.
Yeah, it's the lighting outside here. That's what it really is.
That sun? Is it nice outside?
It's New York and it's 80 degrees.
Nice. That's
Yes.
really good for mid-October, almost the end of October.
I know. In case you're tuning in, this is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. That's my lovely co-host, Stephanie McPhail, who's an author. I'm a psychologist, and we do a show each week. And we have a network of shows, and we have a nonprofit program called Chapters Community Support Services. And every Wednesday, we have outstanding guests, including today, right?
Oh, everybody, I can't even speak. I'm so excited. Everyone needs to tune in. We've got a whole bunch of really great things lined up to talk about today. So definitely stick around for the entire show, because I think you're going to want to, be around for it.
That's right. We're going to cover many topics, and our guest is outstanding. She's from Wisconsin. That's why we played that little Green Bay video a little bit. I'm a Viking fan, but, in the guests, we have to treat the guests well. So we do a little Packer thing in there. But you're an author. Tell everybody about your book.
I wrote the #1 new release in codependency called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. There's also a workbook that goes with it. Basically, I wrote my story to help inspire others, to let them know that no matter what they have gone through in the past, there is hope for them to improve their lives and not just really survive, but create a life that they are thriving and inspiring themselves and others to live their best life.
Wow, it's an outstanding book, and I'm sure you do outstanding work. You're working with people day in, day out, helping through domestic violence. And a couple of weeks ago, you shared a post that got a lot of attention about Gabby Petito here in Long Island. Any update on that? And the feedback that you got must have really hit home.
Yeah, in fact, there was a lot of people asking if they were allowed to share it, and they were so happy that I was speaking up, about it, because it's something that really hit home. And today, actually, just before we came on, I was watching about a cadaver dog and an ambulance that was being sent to an area where they actually found things from Brian Laundrie. So there's a chance that they found him, that he's not alive, obviously, if they're with cadaver dogs. So they must have some kind of information to be searching in that specific area. And the parents had strangely said that they were going to go today to go look for him in the woods. So they must have heard from him. There was something that they're not telling us, because obviously if the parents just happened to want to go today, and so did the ambulance cadaver dogs, something's going on.
Right. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. We may not get all the answers to this, but it really comes down to a domestic violence situation, which you've been involved with personally and professionally. And I think in the weeks to come, we'll continue to talk about this. And I think your work in the field is so very much needed, because I'm guaranteeing there's a lot of situations that could turn on a dime just like that.
And in her case, she was strangled to death, and I was strangled on 2 separate occasions. And I think the biggest message for anyone watching who's in a situation where they feel uncomfortable, it doesn't even matter if they need to compare themselves. One abuse is no better or worse than another. Because I think, like for me, I was like, well, I didn't get any broken bones. I didn't have any black eyes. And so I was really trying to minimize what was going on. Even today, just before I came on here, I was talking to a client who was concerned for her safety after he was yelling and screaming at her and her daughter out of nowhere. And then she was wondering, am I making too big of a deal of this? Is this really not as big of a deal as I think it is? And this is after years and years of verbal abuse, and him saying, hey, for what I do for a living, I could get rid of your body and no one would know. So, I think that we get so desensitized when we are surviving in these types of environments. We don't even realize what's normal and healthy anymore, and that we don't have to continue living that way.
Mm-hmm. And we started the show off with a poem, by a young lady, with the focus being empowering women. What'd you think of that poem and the words that she used?
It was beautiful, and I think that we need more poems like that, more inspiring people to speak up and share their thoughts and stories about really allowing women to stand up and have their voices heard. Because if you think, I hear stories from, back my grandmother when she was alive, and older women, what they've experienced. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And there's still some old patterns between men and women that are still going on, that we need to really shift at this point.
Right. No doubt. We're probably going to revisit that during our show today. But Halloween's only 11 days away. Are you ready?
It's not only is it only 11 days away, but when the clip before from like back in the day, and I was looking at those costumes, those horrific costumes. They were.
Hey, I was a $6 million man. I had one of those costumes.
So did I. I was Smurfette, and it was the most. It would be like dripping of your sweat and saliva, like it was just you couldn't breathe. It was awful.
You know, a couple of people asked me, Stephanie, can you repeat how it was when you put the mask on? Oh, that's okay.
It was so bad, and I'm pretty sure I had that scary soundtrack also on. It wasn't even on tape. It was it was on a disc, just like they showed. I'm pretty sure I had that.
That's called a record. That was
sorry.
record.
You're right. I went blank. It's been so long since I've used it.
Yes, I have a few years on you, so I remember those things. At $1.88, you can't go wrong.
My first album was Thriller on a record. So
okay, all right, not bad. That's your first album?
Yeah, first ever. 7th birthday. That's what I wanted. Thriller.
We will not talk about age on this show then. We're going to just move it right along. But what's your favorite Halloween candy?
You know, I really do. I'm a Reese's Pieces girl. I can see why they make a lot of money. So good.
Right. I'm a Hershey. I like Hershey's and Kit Kats and Skittles and Starburst and all that. I didn't like it when people gave you like fruit or pennies or something that you could actually healthy or learn something from. And do you ever eat fruitcake?
You know, my mom is from France, and she used to always make delicious fruitcake every year. And I never understood the joke as to why people didn't like fruitcake until I had some other fruitcakes that she did not make, and I understood why it was such a joke. Yes, I do, but specific types of fruitcake.
Okay. Well, I never look or eat fruitcake, but I don't know.
Have you never had it?
I tried it. When I see that picture, I don't want to have it.
It's very sticky.
Anyway, I'm sure if you make it, it'll be good. But you know what? We have a couple events coming up here. Oh, okay. Here's U.S. adults dressed in costume, 48%. Are you going to be one of them? Are you
Heck yeah.
Are you going to carve a pumpkin?
Oh, I've got my pumpkin sitting waiting to be carved.
Wow. And you're going to go to a haunted house?
Probably not this year.
Okay. And then, wow. Okay. So you're right up with everybody.
Uh-huh.
You were there. You're good.
Halloween is probably my number one favorite holiday. I love dressing up. We actually, my for those of you who watch the show regularly, you know, my husband's birthday and my daughter's birthday was last week. So we had a party this past weekend to celebrate it. And my now 3-year-old daughter wanted to have a superhero party. And of course, sure, of course we can do that. So my husband was Doctor Strange. I was Captain Marvel. My daughter was Minnie Marvel, and my son, he was Spider-Man. I think he did a few outfit changes because he has a few different costumes, but we all have some poses in front of our house of us being superheroes.
Oh, I can't wait to see these pictures in a couple of weeks. They're going to be gems. I can't wait for that. You know, sometimes we see things around us that we get so detached or desensitized. And I want you to check out this little video because we're going to ask Amy about it too later in the show. How New Yorkers just kind of turn the other cheek when this happens on the subway.
It's an exchange aboard an N train that would shock just about anyone. A woman fights back after being slapped on the rear end by a fellow strap hanger. The subway car left stunned. But as riders approach the next stop, a sense of apathy takes over. As shocking as the scene is, and in some cases not uncommon in the New York City subway, it turns out it was all staged.
But I was surprised, you know. I wanted people to, you know, actually step in.
What they're calling a social experiment was the brainchild of YouTube comedians Prince Z and Daniel Jean, who recruited help from friend Danny Deuces. Their goal, to get New Yorkers more engaged, essentially to do something when they see something not right. You would hope New Yorkers stood up.
Yeah, and I mean, there's another thing too. A lot of New Yorkers don't even care. They just want to go along with their day. They just want to go home. So that's another thing. New Yorkers do not care because it's just so normal.
If this comedy duo looks familiar, they should. They're known for pulling stunts all over town. Last summer, the pair went viral with an epic stunt that made international headlines where Gene, who played an Uber driver, threw his pal into a fountain in Midtown.
I flew. and no one cared.
What witnesses did do was film video of the spectacle and go about their day. A disturbing trend typical in today's culture.
Oh, God. New York City.
We just don't want people to get tired of us, so we don't want to water it down. So we switch it up. We'll do fighting, then we'll do a message. You know, we want to mix up the whole content.
To check out more of their videos, head over.
Go ahead, Steph.
Well, there was just something in the news about a woman getting raped on the subway, and nobody did anything about it. So this is a theme that people are just like, they're surprised and amazed, but instead of calling the police, they pick up their phone to video the whole thing.
I this is the God's honest truth. That's why I wanted to show this. I was at a sporting event on Sunday with like 60,000 people. After the game, it was a very close game. A fight broke out in the stands. And I would think about maybe 20 people involved. I mean, not one security guard, not one person helped. I did try to help, but everybody was videotaping it. They weren't helping. And somebody got pushed to the side. A woman got pushed. Guy got bloodied. It was sick. And I'm thinking we are too connected or disconnected to what's going on around us, connected with our phones, with our video. And I commend these two guys because they're trying to throw it back in our faces that we really have to get reconnected.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people are afraid to jump in because God forbid something happened to them while they're trying to do the right thing.
Right. And that's what happens to me. Real quick, before we get Amy on, we have some upcoming events. Got to rattle off real quick. Tonight, Kick on Healthy Relationships with the Curb. That's us right now. 6 p.m. I'm Proud of You, Sis with Danny Benson. Flashback Sports with Baby Booners, Gil and Dave right here on the network. So you want to stay tuned. We got 6 new shows coming to the network. We're very excited about that. And we can't wait for those shows to be aired on cable. Bat Boys coming to the Yogi Berra Museum on November 16th. I'm the producer. I act in it, really. And also the Voices nonprofit organization for September 11th. We'll be donating 100% of all the proceeds back to them. Mia's Bob D'Amato, a friend of our network, is performing locally here in Long Island on October 30th, Saturday. And Lowe's Moore will be conducting a basketball clinic on 6 dates for the Long Island Nets before each game. We have, as a network, we have 500 free tickets, and we have a couple of tickets free for the Brooklyn Nets, October 24th, October 29th, and November 3rd. So you want to text 476-6271 or just make a note right here. And we have Gary Brown as a Packer. So I know Amy's from Wisconsin. He's a Super Bowl champion. And there's going to be a big event November 13th at Riverhead Raceway. We'll be there broadcasting. We can't wait for that event. Thank you, Elisa. And tomorrow night, we're doing a fundraiser at Paradise Studios. We're raising money for Save Our Stage. It's a cafe in Long Beach. So we're all banding together. So, Carmine, thank you for rattling all those off. And without further ado, let's bring our outstanding guest onto the show. We thank her for her patience. Amy Lee. Welcome, Amy Lee Kaiser, author. She's an amazing person. She does amazing work. She also empowers women and young people and people of all ages to do the best they possibly can. Amy, welcome to Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, thank you for being patient. And what were your thoughts when you saw that subway scene? Do you think people are disconnected in life in general, or do you think that was just something?
100%. And I think it's even worse in bigger cities. And I think I'm glad that it was staged, because I would have done the exact same thing, but there probably would have been some kicking involved too.
Right. Well, you're from Wisconsin, but tell people what you do and why you actually do it. You do an amazing work helping so many people around the world.
Sure. So I am a nurse and a massage therapist, but I'm also a woman's pelvic health specialist. So I help women heal through their womb space. I am a podcaster. That's my podcast, Women's Pelvis Wellness, where we talk about all things pelvis related. And the reason why I decided to focus on the pelvis is that is literally the connector physically between our upper half and our lower half of our body. There's a lot going on there physically that is always ignored, always. But on another level, energetically, emotionally, again, totally ignored, almost always when it comes to the medical field. But society has brought so much shame onto us that we have literally been taught to hate the very center of our power, you know, as women. And I mean, just the chakra system energetically, that's where all of our humanness is stored in those first 3 chakras of our body. And for some people that might be going a little bit deep, but if you're not centered in your body, it really makes it difficult to kind of go through life and truly be healthy. So when we work and heal women through their pelvis on all levels, what we're doing is we are empowering them to trust their own intuition. And when you can trust your intuition, you can shore up those boundaries. You have the confidence to enforce those boundaries. And you also have the confidence to kick those people to the curb who are not honoring those boundaries.
Hey, you see what you just did there, Steph? She used our title.
I was gonna say, like, we like kicking people to the curb that aren't, you know, for our highest good.
Yeah.
So the pelvis. So remind me about the chakras. Can you tell everybody the different chakras for those people who are not in the know?
Sure. Yeah. So the root chakra is at the base of the spine. So for women, I always tell women it's the entire perineum area of your body physically. The sacral chakra is obviously right by the sacrum, which is just above the tailbone. And then the solar plexus is kind of in the belly button area. And then, of course, you know, it continues to go up. There's the heart, the throat chakra, the third eye, and then the crown. The top 3 chakras, crown, third eye, and throat chakra, are our spiritual chakras. The first 3, root, sacral, solar plexus, are the human kind of earth chakras, and the heart is the connector between the 2. So because we're human, having a human experience this time on earth, those lower 3 chakras need to be cleared and balanced if those upper chakras are going to be able to be cleared and balanced. So again, what does that mean? It's the intuition piece. A lot of people think that intuition is based in the third eye, which it is. But if you are not someone who has the confidence and the strength to, you know, trust your intuition, and again, you know, those boundaries, then, you know, I mean, you're not going to make, I guess, maybe not the best decisions, or maybe not in a timely fashion, if you don't have the confidence to trust your own intuition. And the confidence piece comes in the pelvic abdominal area.
Now, I have a question, because my husband last year was really sick and had to spend some time in the hospital. And my husband, David, is very in the spiritual side and all that. And so we were trying to talk to some of the nurses and doctors, and talking a little bit kind of like you are, with like talking about chakras and the spiritual side and all that kind of stuff. And there were some nurses and doctors that were open to it, or at least pretending to be. And there were others that kind of looked at us like we had 3 heads. Now, as a nurse yourself, what got you interested in learning more and being like leaning in and saying, there's something to all of this?
Well, I actually started, I got into energy healing actually because of a therapist that I was seeing. I was in a very unhappy marriage. He wasn't abusive. He just wasn't there. Like, he physically, but nowhere else, you know, and it was like my soul was dying. And so my therapist encouraged me to get energy healing. And at the time I was trying super hard to be a really good Catholic, and those 2 just don't mesh. Well, you know, I decided that I needed to follow my heart. But I saw how quickly energy healing worked, because I worked the night shift at a nursing home, and I did my entire nursing and CNA career in nursing home. And when someone's on hospice and you've given them all the morphine and all the lorazepam that they can have, and they're still clearly, obviously in pain, what do? So I just started doing Reiki, because I worked night shift and I could get away with it. And so many people were relaxing and able to sleep, and they were able to pass without pain. And when I saw how quickly it worked, I just couldn't deny it anymore. And then things just I started to change inside, and I couldn't go to work and deal with the politics, knowing that I'm just shoving all this medication down these old people's mouths and their bodies can't synthesize it anyway. And I just felt awful. And I was like getting physically nauseous. So I decided to go to school for massage therapy. And then I just, started my own. I graduated on June 24th, and July 7th, I opened my business, and I haven't done anything else since. I just left nursing, and that's kind of how it started.
Just tuning in, this is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro, and that's our outstanding guest, Amy Lee. Amy, sometimes when you deal with personal adversity, it's hard to move away from that, but it seemed like you're determined, and you were determined to cope with that situation, but at the same time need to empower others. Is that it?
Yeah, definitely. Women have been silenced for way too long. And when I took the pelvic training, it really kind of opened my eyes to how we are not listened to. We're not cared for. We're not believed. We're just crazy women with hormones, and we just have to deal with it. And then I turned 40 and my throat chakra opened up, and I literally can't be quiet. I can't. It's impossible. And I'm just going to speak and yell from the mountains, from the rafters, and until everybody else can do the same thing.
It's interesting because, so often it's hard enough for my clients. I mean, I work with women who have been in toxic relationships. Sometimes there's abuse. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's verbal, emotional. But one of the saddest things that I hear is they finally realize, like, hey, I need to get out of this relationship, or I'm concerned for my safety. But then they question whether or not the police will believe them, or their friends will believe them, or, can I get the order of protection? Can I protect my kids? All of those things happen. And so it kind of mutes the voice again. So they finally get to that point, like they're ready, but then this fear pops in. And I think it's because of exactly what you're saying. We've been silenced so long as women and told, like, you're freaking out, or she's just hormonal and that's why she's angry. Those kinds of things. You hear that often enough. And then it's like, wait, am I? And I think women will question themselves more because they're afraid to look like they're being hormonal or crazy, or whatever terms you want to use that have been used all the time with women.
Yes. Overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Steve. Were you going to say something?
No. I want to listen. How do you, Stephanie, with your work and even with your work, how do you empower women to kind of move beyond that? Maybe they're a little bit more subdued or passive or accepting, or don't have that insight. Amy, you first. I mean, how do you move beyond that to help them heal?
Well, literally doing the energy work in the pelvic area, because Reiki is the energy healing that I do. There's several different kinds of Reiki, but Reiki heals you on every life throughout all space and time. And so you don't even have to be aware of the trauma. You don't have to even remember the trauma for it to be released. And that's why it's so great, because you don't have to be re-traumatized in order to heal from it. And, it's kind of hard to explain, but as I'm working in that area physically, emotions are stored in our organs energetically. So as I'm literally squishing everything inside them around, I'm kind of pulling and releasing, and I'm shaking up their energy field. Therefore, I am supporting them with specifically Holy Fire Reiki, which is the energetic manifestation of the Holy Spirit, which is pure unconditional love. I purposely chose that type of Reiki because I'm blasting their pelvis with love the entire time. So some women have full-on detox symptoms afterwards. But as those layers of pain and trauma leave, they automatically become more confident. They automatically become more sure of themselves. And, then we obviously talk through things. I give them purposeful activities that help them on every single level. And it's very fun stuff, like jump roping or hula hooping. And it's a way to get their body moving. It's a way to get their energy moving. It's a way to kind of reconnect through their pelvis. I mean, again, that's just kind of my jam, the pelvic area. But yeah, like I said, as things come up, we just talk about it, and the energy releases. The energy of that trauma releases.
Mm-hmm. And do you find during the pandemic, your work suffered, or did it increase? Do you think there was more of a need to connect with women during this challenging time for all of us?
Yeah, well, when we were actually shut down, of course, it suffered because this is my only source of income. But I mean, intuitive work and energy work can be done. It's remotely. I don't need to see them even. We don't need to be on Zoom, but I do virtual Reiki sessions and intuitive sessions to help women. So that piece, didn't really bother my business at all. But what I'm seeing more and more is women coming in and they're saying, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just don't want to be here anymore. And I don't mean like they're suicidal, but they are not in the place in their life where they want to be, and they don't know how to move forward. They don't know how to change. They may not even know where they want to go. They just know that they need to do more. They need to feed their soul more. So that's what I've been seeing a lot of, is women coming in, needing a huge change, but not knowing how to get there.
Stephanie, do you feel the women that you work with, because I see it too in men and women, they reach a level that they're stifled. They don't know which direction to go in, or they're fearful of taking that next step, which is a critical step, but it really immobilizes that individual. Do you see that, Steph?
That is, if I had to pick one thing that was the hardest thing to deal with, is being frozen in fear. So the inaction. And so, and what I say to clients, well, inaction is action. It's decision to stay where you are. It's still something. The biggest thing is realizing they don't have to stay trapped. They have to, one decision, one way or the other, can really change their entire future. But I think sometimes they need to be reminded, well, what happens if you stay exactly like this and try to play that out, versus what happens if you do one little shift, one little change? What is the possibility of what could happen? Because a lot of us, we want to do more for ourselves, but we have this fear of what if it doesn't succeed? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not capable? What if people won't like me? All of these insecurities that have been built up for all of this time, a lot of it from childhood. So I love the things of jump rope and stuff like that. I love doing that too. And to have all those insecurities just boil up to now we're, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and all of this stuff that's been building up is keeping us. So it's how much longer are we going to wait? Till you're 70, till you're 80? At what point? And I asked the client that today. So what has to happen more than what's already happened for you to decide to change? What else do you need as a reminder? So sometimes we need the reminder of what else are we willing to accept in our lives until we actually decide to act in spite of the fear and discomfort.
That's well said. And Stephanie, do you double dutch when you jump rope?
I am such a spaz. I can regular jump rope, but that's about it. Okay. And jump roping is hard, Steve. I don't see you jumping around with the jump rope very easily.
Okay, well, I asked you the question. Don't put it back on me. We actually have a guest here. We can't fight like this. But Amy, what do you think what Stephanie's talking about? How empowering women? What's the biggest challenge you have for that, and the most rewarding aspect of your work when you empower women?
Yeah, definitely the fear. Fear is the number one thing that, holds everybody back. And I always say, being afraid is never a reason not to do something, unless you think you're going to die, but right. I think, she's spot on, that it is a difficult thing. And I think the biggest reward is just, seeing a woman enforce her boundaries, but also seeing it reflected in the kids that are in the house, or seeing it reflected in my kids too, because they use terminology that I have taught them. So I know that I've broken the cycle of being silent, in my family, at least,
Well, preparing for the show, Amy, we had an interesting conversation recently. and our title is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. And you brought something to my attention that you wanted to share with our viewers and maybe some of the new viewers that you and your daughter went through recently. I'm hoping that you would want to share that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was June 28th, and a male friend of mine who I've known for 6 years asked if he could come over and hang out, which he's done dozens of times, you know. And it was raining, and I was like, sure, I'm just sitting in my garage watching the rain, just being, you know, having a nice calm evening. And then I started getting bit by mosquitoes. So I said, I'm going to go in the house. And I actually thought he was going to leave, but he came in. And as he came in behind me, he said, you look really nice in that dress. And I'm like, thank you. It was just kind of a normal everyday dress that I wear pretty often. And he sat on my couch and I sat in my recliner, and we were literally talking about work boots, you know, and because I wanted to buy some motorcycle boots. And I was asking him where I could get some, and he was just telling me. And then all of a sudden, like just like that, he was on the ground, on his knees, between my legs, trying to shove his head up my dress, hands up my dress. I am simultaneously shoving him off, telling him no, and trying to like lean back and squirm myself over the back of my recliner. And I was just in total shock, you know, that this was happening. And I shoved him. I said no. I told him to stop. I said his name. And then finally, I gave him a really hard shove. And I said his name. And I'm like, are you seriously going to rape me right now? Are you honestly going to force me? And it was like he snapped out of a daze. And I'm like, you need to get the F out of my house right now. Right now. And I didn't report him. And I was mad at him. I was mad at myself. I was mad at the patriarchy, you know, the whole world and everything. And it kind of festered and festered and festered. And I told myself, well, he didn't rape me. It wasn't really that bad. He didn't touch any of my sexual parts. It wasn't really that bad. But I was so mad at him. And then my daughter in school, she came home one day and she just said, how do we report a student anonymously? And I said, tell me what's happening. And this boy, 13 years old, was completely sexually harassing her and some of her friends, moaning in their ear, accidentally brushing up against their breast or their butt. I don't know. Can I say like all the things on the show?
Sure.
No? So, I mean, he was asking them what vagina smelled like. He was telling them that he gets boners in class and he has to go home and eat his meat. And he was saying all these things very boldly in class. And then he said that women lie about rape to get revenge on men that they don't like. And I pretty much threw a holy shit fit. So I contacted the school immediately. Another mom did too. I would have liked to have seen more done, but the girls who were the victims in that case, they were okay with the punishment. And that was the most important thing. So I let it slide. But I mean, I didn't let it slide. I just didn't go further. But I did tell the school, if this happens again, the first call will be to the police department. And I will press charges. And there will be no negotiating, you know? And that inspired me. So she told me on a Wednesday. And on Friday, I went to the police department and I reported him. And they brought him in for an interview and he admitted to it and he apologized and they charged him with disorderly conduct. And actually just today in the mail, I got the victim packet, which is so weird. It's just a very strange, you know, thing. And it's like I had to give my victim impact statement and if I wanted restitution and all of this stuff. I found out that I can't get restitution in a criminal case. I can only take him to civil, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to see him. But it was, I've known this guy for 6 years. And what's interesting is as I drove to the police department to tell my story, like I was nervous and I started sweating and I started kind of shaking a little bit. And I'm telling myself, nothing that bad even happened to me. And I'm feeling like this. Imagine when something, you know, but it's all relative, you know, you can't compare it like Stephanie was saying earlier. But imagine the women who have had these horrible experiences, I mean, if that's how I felt, you know, and he didn't really get anywhere, imagine how they feel. But I kept telling myself, I know that they're going to ask me if I've slept with him before. I know they're going to ask me. And that was the second question that the cop asked me. And I said, completely irrelevant, completely irrelevant. We could have been doing it all day the day before. Doesn't matter. I told him no. I pushed him off. I told him to stop. Doesn't, you know, so it made me mad that he even asked the question.
Right.
But after I reported him, all of that anger left. All of the anger left. And then I found out that he admitted to it and that they're charging him and everything. And yeah, I mean, I felt so much better. I felt a lot calmer, you know. And I'm disgusted. I'm disappointed. But I'm not angry anymore.
Wow.
And I'm glad, and I have to say too, I'm glad there was no feelings of guilt that you reported him, because that's what I have with some clients, is there's feeling like I got him in trouble. And then we have to work through, no, you pressing charges did not get him in trouble.
Right.
He got himself in trouble when he behaved in a way that was not appropriate. So sometimes that's just the added guilt that goes along with not only what happened, but then they actually have to press charges.
Well, I was chatting with a mutual friend because I told the other mutual friend what had happened. And he said, you know, you're about the third woman who's told me he's done this. And this entire time, he has a girlfriend who he lives with and has a child with. So he's running around doing all this stuff. So, I mean, on top of all that, he's a slime ball because he's not being faithful. But I told the mutual friend and I said, I'm going to report him. I think I'm going to go today and do it. And he goes, boy, this is going to mess up his life. And I said, you know what? All of our choices in life have consequences. And this is a consequence of his choice. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with me. That's on him. Right. He brought this on himself. You know, that's just the way it is.
So it's safe to say, Amy, your daughter kind of inspired you to kind of, you know, do what you did and in turn inspiring others and just sharing it today. Mm-hmm. We're thankful that you have the courage to share that. And it's something, we have a little video. It's like a cartoon video, but it kind of highlights sexual harassment in the school setting. And if there are young people watching, I want them to check this out too. Let's watch.
Hello? It's you again. Gosh, this is the third time today. No, I don't care if this is my once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get the Sucker 3000 vacuum cleaner. Please, just stop harassing me.
Sexual harassment is a type of bullying intended to hurt or intimidate someone. It can include making sexual jokes, comments, or gestures to or about someone, spreading sexual rumors in person, by text, or online, writing sexual messages about people on bathroom stalls or in other public places, showing someone inappropriate sexual pictures or videos, touching, grabbing, or pinching someone in a deliberately sexual way, asking someone to send you naked pictures of herself or himself, pulling at someone's clothing, and brushing up against someone in a purposefully sexual way. If you're being harassed, don't blame yourself. The idea that someone was asking for it because of something they did, said, or were wearing is false and unacceptable. It often can be helpful to start by telling the person doing the harassing to stop. Let him or her know that this behavior is not okay with you. If that doesn't stop the harassment, don't just ignore the behavior. Usually, ignoring it won't make it stop. Instead, tell a trusted adult about it. Telling someone sooner leads to faster results. You should keep a record of the events that have happened. That way you'll have them if your school or family has to take legal action. Remember, no one has the right to sexually harass or bully anyone else, no matter what.
Till next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye!
What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would help, kids kind of understand things a little bit more. And I actually spoke to the dean at the school and I said, I don't know if men always understand, like, they don't think what they're doing is harassment.
Right.
Or boys, for sure. Men know. But I don't think that boys always know. So I said, this is exactly why you need to believe us when we say this is happening. And I do want to share also that I told my daughter, Rebecca, I told her, you know, you inspired me to do this. I told her very briefly, this is what happened to me, without any details, of course. And I said, I want you to know that you inspired me. And I said, you're so much more sure of yourself than I was at your age. And she said, well, that's because I have you and you didn't have you. And I totally broke down and ugly cried because it's true.
Wow. I mean, you know, when you empower others, but when you hear from your own children, it's powerful. And to think that you both went through similar events, traumatic events like that within a short period of time, it's probably like a teaching moment for both of you, right?
Yeah. And we had all this conversation in front of my 15-year-old and 11-year-old son. Right. So, you know, they have to know too. And, you know, I mean, I told the school, you need to educate. Everybody has to be educated about this. Right. You know, you can't, because it's a Catholic school. Ugh. So sorry to anybody out there it's just so cringy to me. Because, you know, they're not exactly known for taking action on anything sexual. So they need to be educated, and it needs to happen, you know, quarterly at least. Right. It has to be an ongoing discussion.
I taught middle school and high school health for 17 years. And that was actually something that I brought up very often. And I agree. I think a lot of boys, if they're listening to other boys their age, they're hearing these ridiculous things from other older kids that are most of the time lies to make themselves sound good to the other guys. And then so they're and there's not a lot of conversations being had between parents and children about sexual activity. It's like the hush hush, don't ask, don't tell type of stuff when it comes to, you know, sexuality. And, you know, a lot of people are going around not knowing what's healthy, what's normal, what's okay, what's not okay, boundaries, all those things. A lot of girls are afraid to share their boundaries. Something doesn't feel right, they don't speak up. The boys are not really sure what's going on. And so I always made it a part of my curriculum was to teach about consent, you know, asking if it's okay. And, you know, one of the biggest things was, well, I'm afraid to tell my significant other about like using a condom or whatever. And so my thing was always, if you're too afraid to talk about sex, you're probably too afraid to actually engage in it. And they were always like, wow, really? And I'm like, yeah, if you're not talking about consequences, like what happens if the condom breaks and we have children, have you had, you know, other partners? We had all this concept, and it was like beyond any of them understanding that was a possibility. They could have that conversation. And that happens with my adult clients now still, that they're like amazed that you could have those conversations. And I say the same thing. You should be able, there's no such thing as overly communicating when it comes to a relationship. So yeah, I think these things, I don't think people are taught. I don't think they know. Does that give them completely free, you know, ability to do and say whatever? Of course not. But I think there's a lot of things that aren't being done on the other side that are teaching children that turn into adults, like what's okay and not okay.
Right.
Wow. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. Our special guest, Amy Lee. Amy, you have a podcast. Tell everybody about your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Women's Pelvis Wellness. I started it August 4th of 2020 during the lockdown when I couldn't actually work. So it turned out pretty great, actually. And we talk about all the things that people have been silenced about for so long. You know, in this country, on average, it takes a woman 7 to 10 years to be accurately diagnosed with endometriosis. And that is an absolute bunch of crap. Me, as a 41-year-old woman, if I walk into, you know, the doctor and I say, hey, you know, I can't hold my urine, I dribble when I cough, they're going to say, well, you're 41 and you had C-sections. So kind of the way life is now. But if a 41-year-old man walks in and says, I can't hold my urine, they're going to find out why. They're not going to say, well, you're 41, you have 3 kids. You know, there is a difference between normal and common. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. So on the podcast, we talk, there's no holds barred. They're mostly labeled explicit because we talk about everything and we're real and we're honest because someone has to be, and it has to, I mean, why not have it be me? You know, and it kind of gives me it gives me a platform, you know, to be a voice for the women in my family who were not able, you know, to have their voice, like my mom's generation and my grandma's generation, you know, and even still now, you know, when I go around and it's so cringy sometimes, you know, when the Me Too movement happened and, you know, you go home to a family function and you hear your drunk uncle saying, oh, me too, like it's a big friggin' joke when they themselves has sexually harassed me, you know? And so now, like, I do not care who's around me. I'm going to call you out every single time. And that's just the way it's going to be. If you don't want to get called out, then don't be a jerk.
That's right. And you talk about the book a little bit.
Yeah. So I was in a compilation book, The Fearless Entrepreneurs, and I actually discuss in my chapter, again, how I went to talk about the pelvic work that I do with women it can really help women. It can help them recover from C-section. It can help you prep for birth. It can help you, help prep for pregnancy. It can help you recover from pregnancy birth, whether it's C-section or vaginal. And I was so excited to meet with this entire group of, an OB group at a hospital. And this man who was new to the country, one of the doctors new to the country and new to the practice, he was like, so can you help men with erectile dysfunction? And then he slapped the other male doctor on the shoulder and said, hey, you should go to see her for your erectile dysfunction. And he was mocking me. And he was firing questions at me, but not giving me enough time to answer. And finally, I just said, are you going to let me answer, or do you just want to hear yourself speak? Because I can honestly help you help your patients, but you're not a very good doctor if you're not even going to listen to me.
Right.
And thankfully another older, more experienced female doctor also checked him. But it's like, even in the medical field, like, I'm a woman, I've had children, that automatically makes me more knowledgeable, I feel. Then, that male doctor is never going to have a child. He's never going to experience miscarriage. He's never going to experience traumatic birth. He may be the one perpetrating the traumatic birth. So for God's sakes, if you can't listen, then why are you even in any type of medical profession? Just go.
So between the podcast and your book, you're really getting your word out there and your voice heard. How can people get a hold of the book, and when is your podcast viewed so people could check it out?
So you can go to thefearlessentrepreneurs.com and you can buy it there. It's also on Amazon. You can contact me directly. My email is amy@reproductivesolutionswi.com. My website is soulhealingbodyworkwellnesscenter.com. And I honestly forgot the rest of the question.
The podcast. When is the podcast on?
Oh yeah, the podcast. The podcast airs every Wednesday. So Women's Pelvis Wellness on Wednesday.
What time on Wednesdays? Does it conflict with our show?
No, it's not live.
I'm just checking. Yeah. Okay, just checking.
No, it's not live.
It's like, oh no.
I got a little nervous because you do great stuff. And a little but Amy, I want to thank you very much. Very insightful. Thank you for your courage of sharing your stories and your daughter's stories. And I know we'll have you back on the show real soon.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me and listening.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Wow, Stephanie, great guest, great knowledge, great experience, and has the courage and the strength to cope with her own adversities, but to help others.
And that's what we do here. Is we love having people on the show that have overcome their own adversities and can inspire others to overcome theirs. Sharing our stories is one of the best gifts we can give to anybody.
That's right. Well, we're going to spend a couple of minutes here of promoting a couple of shows on the network, because right after this is a show by Danny Benson, I'm Proud of You, Sis. And I think she's backstage because her show is outstanding, and she's been doing it for almost a year now. Danny, are you there? Hey, Danny.
Hi.
Okay, well,
Hi, everyone.
How are you? You're a little lagged a little bit, but
hi,
talk
Stephanie.
about.
Hi, Steve. How are you guys today?
Good. How are you?
Hi.
How are you?
Great show. I've been watching the whole time. I enjoy you guys' show so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you have a
Amazing
great show
you
coming
guys
up.
have.
Thank you so much. But you have a great show. Talk about your guest tonight.
Oh my goodness. My guest is Erica Lee. She is like the first female CEO named in the Marquis Who in the first 123 years that this book has been published. I mean, she has been on Page 6, Afrotech, Ladders. She's been written on The Hill. She's on Leaders Magazine. She's on Social Hills. And today she's going to be talking about the birthright in Africa. She's also on the board of. She's an amazing leader. She went to Uniondale High School, where I went to in Nassau County. So I've known her for over 20 years. She's an amazing leader in the community. She is a person who gives back to every organization you could think of. If you need her, she is there. She is a giver of her time to children, to the young, to the old, and she is coming on the show to talk about what she is doing right now. So I'm so excited to have her on right now. But she is the first CEO in 123 years, female CEO, named in the Marquis Who's Who. So that is exciting.
And you got her on your show and not our show. How'd that happen?
I don't know, but you know what? Like, she loves your show.
Okay,
so
all right.
She's so happy that she's like following you guys. Like she's like, because she watches you guys. So she's so happy that she gets to be announced on your show, because my show comes right after your show.
That's
so
right.
She was like, can I get announced on this show? Because I watch it all the time.
Oh, okay.
So I said, yeah. I was like, you know what? I have it in on with Steve. So let me ask Steve if I can announce Erica on your show.
Danny, Stephanie, she has two beautiful twin girls. They just had a birthday, right? Happy birthday.
Yes, they just turned 8. And I'm happy because they're twins. And everyone told me the magic number was 8 when they start getting their independence and I can breathe a little bit. So I am breathing now. I am breathing.
When was their birthday?
Oh, their birthday was this past Saturday.
Okay. My daughter.
We had a camp because of COVID. We had a camp night birthday party.
Nice.
So all the kids from 1st grade, 2nd grade, we were being responsible. So we had all the kids outside in the backyard, and we slept outside. We were social distancing, and we camped outside.
Well, Danny, thank you so very much. We're just about out of time. Have a great show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
All right. Have a great show. Thank you, Danny Benson. And we're going to take us home with, I'm losing my voice here, with Flashback Sports. Gil is going to give a little video about his show tonight. Take care, Steph. Billy Martin Jr. is going to be on.
Hello, everyone. I'm from Enemy Territory in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, to tell you about a little bit of our show Wednesday. My all-time favorite, Billy Martin. We're going to have his son, Billy Martin Jr., to talk about the life and times of Billy Martin. Wednesday, 9 p.m., Flashback Sports with Gil and Dave. Chapter Draft, YouTube and Facebook. Look forward to a great show with my hero, son, Billy Martin.